and welcome to this first look exploring session looking at some honourable entertainments composed for the service of this noble city, some of which were fashioned for the entertainment of the lords of His Majesty's most honourable Privy Council upon the occasion of their late royal employment, invented by Thomas Middleton. So these are a series of short entertainment pieces for various different occasions, written by Thomas Middleton and printed in 1621, but some of them dating from sort of early to mid 1620, and they dance around a fair amount, and we're just going to have sort of a little dive into them and see which animals crop up prominently. And say hello. So reading today various bits and pieces from these honourable entertainments, unpacking them as it were, reading the songs Pallas, Property, Singer, Autumn and Hyacinth is...
I am Greg, and I'm looking forward to seeing what my predecessor, so to speak, put together.
Reading a speech, Water Nymph, Levity, Second Echo and Winter is...
Hi, I'm Eric. You don't need to wonder if winter is coming. I'm already here.
Actually, to be fair, by the time this goes out, it probably will be winter. We're recording this midsummer. Reading speech to the Aldermen, Servant, Temperance, Spring and Adonis is...
I am Tom from Brighton.
And reading Archer, Epitaph, Severity, Echo Number 1, Summer and Flora is...
I'm Sorley. I'm betting on peacocks, personally.
And also joining us as our special guest to take us through what's going on is...
I'm Tracey, and I'm in my kitchen in Bath. And this is a really interesting accumulation of bits and pieces. So I'm looking forward to it.
And I'm your host, Robert Crighton. I'll be reading, stage directions, occasional bits of prose, but I'll also be just generally keeping things moving on. So the text starts with a long list of names of dedicatees, a whole massive list. Sir Francis Jones, Knight, Lord Mayor of the City of London, Right Lord Sir John Gerard, Sir Thomas Bennett, Sir Thomas Lowe, the whole list of names there, all brethren, senators, presidents of religions and worthy actions, careful assistants in the state of so unmatched a government, and all of them being his worthy and honourable patrons, says Thomas Middleton. Tracey, could you just give us any sort of background about what this text or these texts are doing? Who are all these right honourable people, and why are they being entertained?
Okay, it's... as far as we're aware, this particular miscellany is a kind of a one-off, and it's a very interesting collection. Middleton had, in 1620, been appointed chronologer of the city, which was a fairly new role, page role, and this seems to come about as a result of that. Clearly, he's trying to kind of establish himself in civic circles and so on. My sense is that these are the kinds of entertainments that would have gone on all the time, but are very, very rarely recorded. So in that respect, it's a really important little book, actually, really interesting. And the dimension of it, where it sort of spilled over into Privy Council, is also very interesting, because civic entertainments tend to be purely civic. This one is a bit different.
So there's sort of occasional pieces for occasional things. Before we get to the actual first entertainment, I'll ask Greg, could you just read these sort of opening introductory verses that Thomas Middleton presents? Thomas Middleton wishes the fullness of that honour whose object is virtue and goodness. So Greg, just that first little verse, if you're able to get there. I saw a finger. I don't know if that means I'm out or not.
I did. Sorry. Those things that have took joy at several feasts, to give you entertainment as the guest, they held most truly worthy, become now poor suitors to be entertained by you. So were they from the first, their suit is then one to serve you to be received again, and you to equal justice are so true, you always cherish that which honours you, ever obedient in his studies, to the service of so complete a goodness, Thomas Middleton.
So a little introductory verse on these entertainments. So we're going to read the first entertainment of the lot, sometimes known as the Cock. So on Monday and Tuesday in Easter week 1620, the first entertainment at the house of the right worthy Sir William Cockayne, then Lord Mayor, which on the Saturday following was fashioned into service for the Lords of His Majesty's most honourable Privy Council, upon which day that noble marriage was celebrated betwixt the Right Honourable Charles, Lord Howard, Baron of Effingham, and Mary, eldest daughter of the said Sir William Cockayne, then Lord Mayor of London, and the Lord General of the Military Forces. So, one habited like a gentleman, sir, bearing in his hand an artificial cock, conducted by the city music toward the high table, a song giving notice of his entrance.
Room, room, make room, you friends to fame, officers of worth and name. Make room, behold the bird of state doth come. Make room, clear the place, oh do it all the grace. It is the king of birds, whose chaunting and early morning, crowing so quick and strongly flowing, does make the king of beasts lie panting. How worthy then to be brought in with honour, that daunts the proudest in that humble manner.
Two powers at strife about conceived wrong, to whom this bird should properly belong, were reconciled by harmony. First the sun called it his bird, because still when they begun to ope her modest eye, this creature then proclaimed his glory to the world again. Minerva next, goddess of arms and art, claimed it for hers, not without just desert. He, like the morning, being the muse's friend, and then for courage, 'tis his life, his end. Without wrong, then those properties related to both, he may be justly consecrated. But, worthy Lord, how properly to you, whose place partakes of both, it is so true, an emblem of your worth, charge, power, and state. None noblier can express a magistrate. For all that is in this bird quality is in you, virtue, justice, industry. What does his early morning note imply? But in you, early care and vigilancy, a duty that begets duty to you. So virtue still pays and receives her due. What does the striking of his wings import? Ere to his neighbor he his sounds retort. But the dear labors and incessant pains of a just magistrate, that e'en constrains his nerves to give more virtue to his word, and beat in sense into the most absurd. The sharpest is the easiest to apply, for his quick spur law's sword doth signify. The execution of your charge and place, to cut off all crimes that are bold and base. Virtues should be with kind embraces heaped, but with the sword, sin's harvest must be reaped. If I keep going.
Note to the Alderman Tom.
Forgive me. My reverence, next to you that are the fathers of this city, by whose care, wisdom, and watchfulness the good causes thrive. You that are lights and precedents in lives, noble examples, honours the age and time. This is the top which your good cares must climb. A ceaseless labour virtue hath imposed upon all those whom honour hath enclosed. And such are you, selected from the rest, works then that are most choice become the best. Place before all your actions and intents the rare gift of that bird, this but presents. Behold, the very shape and figure now serves for a noble welcome, turned into a cup of bounty, and the adorned the feast, loaden with loves, comes to each worthy guest. And but observe the manner, there's in that freeness expressed humility, yet state. First you take off his head to taste his heart, which shows at this time power is laid apart. And bounty fills the place. Then he goes round to show a welcome of equal sound. To every one a free one, though the board so plain he speaks the goodness of his lord. Take then respectful notice through the hall that here the noble health begins to all. The cock cup then delivered by his gentleman sir to the Lord Mayor.
I apologise. I should be reading that. It's a bit of prose. The cock cup then delivered by this gentleman's sewer to the Lord Mayor. He beginneth the health, and a second song thus honouring it.
The health's begun in the bird of the sun, pledge it round, with hearty welcome it come is crowned, or pledge it round. The ceremonies due, forget not as they were begun to you, when you are drank to, ye are by duty led, first to kiss your hand, then take off the head. You cannot miss it then. You put it on and kiss it again. The next to whom the health doth flow, it's ought to honour your pledge. So round, let it go, as above, so below. For bounty did intend it always so.
So, yes, the cock turns out to be a drinking vessel that is passed around for everyone to drink a health out of after the presumably separate artificial cock. I don't know if that's literally the same cock as the drinking vessel. I believe the drinking vessel is actually still a thing that exists.
It's the loving cup, and it will be the same thing. I've done a loving cup thing. It's quite complicated because you have to kind of bow and turn around, and so actually it's quite easy to get it wrong. Yeah, this is fun. Singing was great, Greg. Well done. Really good. Really good. You'll be surprised to hear not that cocaine's coat of arms is, guess what?
Is it a cock?
Is it a cock?
Three cocks.
Three cocks.
3 red ones, yes. Very impressive. And he was the Lord Mayor. Obviously, he'd been the Lord Mayor since October 1619. Middleton wrote Pageantry and Christmas for his mayoralty. Big hitter, cocaine, really was. He was the first governor of Londonderry in those days, obviously. And he had actually, a couple of years previously, tried to completely reform the cloth trade, which is the biggest industry in England, and failed miserably, but doesn't seem to have done his career any harm at all. Middleton himself had been appointed city chronologer in September of 1620, and there is a theory, Lawrence Manny has a theory that he was given that post by cocaine, at cocaine's bidding, as a kind of thank you for doing the Lord Mayor's show in 1619. So yeah, he's a major player. And at this occasion, as you can see, one of his daughters is marrying Lord Howard. He's marrying right into the aristocracy. She's married into the aristocracy. So it's bringing the Privy Council and the city together.
I have to be said, disappointed that we don't have an excuse to build a giant animatronic cock. That just feels that there is a literal object that we can actually look at and exists is weirdly more disappointing to me than the occasion there. But maybe there was an additional separate. Maybe there was an outer casing which the cup was in. I'm clutching at straws. I know. Any other thoughts on entertainment number 1? We're still in April 1620. We're going to jump forward in time to the next entertainment on the list, and we're more towards the latter end of the year. We don't know precisely when. September is a question mark. So at Bun Hill on the shooting day, another habited like an archer did thus greet the Lord Mayor and Aldermen after they were placed in their tent.
Why, this is nobly done. To come to grace a sport so well becomes the time and place. Old time made much on't, and it thought no praise too dear for it, nor no honour in those days. Not only kings ordained laws to defend it, that shined the first examples to commend it in their own persons, honoured it so far. A land of peace showed like a field of war, but chiefly Henry, memory's fame, the 8, and the 6th Edward gave it worth and weight by act and favour, not without desert, it being the comeliest and the manliest art. And whereas meaner crafts took their first form from humble things, as twisting from a worm and weaving from the spider's limber frame, music and archery from Apollo came. He calls himself great master of this sport, in whose bright name fair wisdom keeps her court. Well may this instrument be first in fame, above all others that have got a name in war or peace, when heaven itself doth show the covenant of mercy by a bow, and as each creature, nay, each senseless thing is made a glass to see heaven's goodness in. So though this may be a mere delight to gain, justice may see here something she may claim, without wrong done to state and called her own, since the greatest power is oft through weakness known. What are reproofs? With thee I first begin, but arrows shot against the breast of sin, who hits vice home and cleaves the wrong in twain, so that it never comes to close again. Shows not he noble archery? I'll pray ever he may be followed, mended he can never, and as a cunning bowman marks his ground, and throw light things, which being tossed up, is found where the wind sits for his advantage best, before he let his arrow pass his breast. So the grave magistrate, discreetly wise, makes use of light occasions that arise, to lead him on to weightier, winds a cause for things but weakly told, much substance draws, and will the state of truth exactly try, before he let the shaft of judgment fly. Then in this art there's virtue still expressed, for every man desires here to be best. Their aim is still perfection, to outreach and go beyond each other, which does teach a noble strife in our more serious deeds, assuring glory to him best exceeds. And where some sports see corners for their shame, daylight and open place commends this game, much like an honest cause, it appears bold in public court for all eyes to behold. On then, Apollo's scholars, you now found nobler spectators compassed in this ground, to whom I wish, worthy their virtuous ways, peace to their hearts, long health, and blessed days.
So whereas the first piece, felt much more like something for a private, or a livery members only kind of occasion for the great and the good, this feels much more like the kind of thing for where the Lord Mayor has to visit the archery, and there's a little thing, and there's a photo opportunity, and everyone stands and there's a speech, and then everyone gets on with doing the archery. And it feels more. This feels more like the kind of thing that's part of the job, and I'm the kind of thing that someone who's important has to sort of do and be involved with. Am I being too modern in my analogies here? Because it just feels like it's a slightly different kind of gig, this one.
I mean, they're all part of the job in that respect. I mean, this doesn't have the kind of political edge that the one that's coming up does, but the one that was never actually performed, interestingly. But the background is very much the same. This Cocaine's the Lord General of the City Militia. We're talking a couple of years into the 30 Years' War. King James is absolutely refusing to get involved. And there's a big push from the city in particular that he should get involved. So I think that's why the other one was never performed, because it was just too political. But I think it's a lovely speech, actually. I think there's some really nice, really, really nice poetry in there. I don't know if everyone agrees with me, hopefully.
Well, it's also that there's perhaps a running theme we may get a lot, which is whatever activity we're doing is rather like being a Lord Mayor, or is a sort of attribute of what a good Lord Mayor should be like. Stretched metaphors and similes, I feel like for all occasions sometimes. But yeah, there's some really nice stuff in there, and it's not an unreasonable one. Eric?
It put me in mind of the Forester that we read like 2 days ago. Which no one else in this room will get because you weren't there. But basically, yeah, this is from the life and death of Caballero Dick Bauer or Bowyer. I don't know how to pronounce it. But and basically, there's a forester who turns up for plot reasons, and he kind of goes, "Yes, I am king of the forest, and except that, there's and all of these creatures are my subjects, but slight difference. We kill our subjects willingly, a little bit. Yeah, that's what this made me think of."
Yeah. Yes, I say not one that you would do with a Lord Mayor, because you would be suggesting that they were a tyrant that murders their people. But yes, other thoughts before we go on to our third entertainment?
Just to add that Apollo is, as well as being god of war and a whole load of other things, he's also responsible for kind of pageantry, basically. So he's kind of singly appropriate there. And as you say, Rob, he's kind of, Middleton is trying to compress a whole load of different meanings into the same speech. I think he does it pretty well. It's not too kind of, ouch. Really nice.
And it does set up the event, because the last four lines are to the archers, and off you go, fire thing. So it has a sort of shape to it that I quite like. Surely.
Yeah, it occurs to me this is basically a very low budget opening for the civic event. You've got one guy, presumably he gets a new suit of Lincoln green and a nice decorative bow to flourish around, and he gives a speech going, "Archery is awesome. The boss is awesome. Be good archers. Here we go." And that's it.
Yes.
Nothing like your huge artificial cock for the last one.
I say that's, for the company members only.
They get the good stuff spent on them. This is for the public.
Well, that's why I sort of thought of it as almost a photo op. Is you've got the art, him standing there doing his speech, the Lord Mayor sitting there listening, everyone's watching the Lord Mayor's listening to the speech, and then the archery all starts, and everyone gets on with what they're supposed to be doing, and all the dignitaries go off for a beer, or wine, or whatever they're on.
And I think in terms of the kind of production, it's much more straightforward. I mean, there's lots of questions about the first one. We know where it's performed, but we don't know what the setup of the room was. We don't know who the speaker was. Is it the same person as the singer? Where does the music come from? Is it kind of established pre-existing music? Is it purpose written? Who knows?
Okay, let's gather more on these entertainments. This next one is actually I'll ask Tracey, if you know anything on this, because it's upon the renewing of that worthy and laudable custom of visiting the springs and conduit heads for the sweetness and health of the city, a visitation long discontinued. So it's another sort of public civic event, but one that fell out of fashion. Or do you know anything about this particular ritual?
It seems to have done. I mean, it's kind of compares very interesting with the next one, actually, which was sort of clearly stopped. I had to look into this. I have to say, I've never really kind of thought about it that hard, but it's a conduit head that was on the Tyburn, so near Oxford Street, where Oxford Street is now. And the land on which one of the conduit houses was built, it says on Wikipedia, was the property of the City of London. The banqueting house was constructed in 1565 on the site. So it's a kind of a rare outpost in the farthest reaches of not of the city for the citizens. So it's got a kind of interesting dimension to it there. There seems to be some sort of theme here that Cockaine, during his mayoralty, kind of did try to re-establish things that have been, fallen into abeyance. Middleton clearly approves of.
Well, let's find out what this little ceremony is. So, a water nymph, seeming to rise out of the ground by the conduit head, near the banqueting house, thus greets the honourable assembly.
Huh? Let me clear mine eyes. Methinks I see comforts approach as if they came to me. I'm not used to them. I have long been without. How comes the virtue of the times about? Has ancient custom yet a friend of weight so many? Rare eye goodness is waked her late out of her long sleep sure, that has lain still many a dear day, charmed with neglect and will. I thought I'd been forsaken, quite forsook, for none these 7 years has bestowed a look on my watery habitation here. I mean, of power that ought to see me clear, that yond fair city's health, which sweetness bless, and virtue in full strength ever possess. Well fare thy visitation, noble lord, and this most grave assembly that accord in ways of charity and care with thee. Joys visit you as your loves visit me. The water stands now so full in mine eyes, I cannot choose but weep. But the tears rise from gladness, not from sorrow, for that's lost. Now I see you unkindness yet has cost many dear drops, since I beheld the face of the last magistrate in power and place. I have done good service, there's no boasting part in one forgot to speak her own desert. I grant my kind and loving sisters, both Chadwell and Amwell, have expressed no sloth in their pipe pilgrimage, but fairly proved most excellent servants, housed and well beloved, and have, when hard necessity requires, given happy quench to many merciless fires. Therefore am I neglected, an old friend, the head that to the heart of the city send my best and clearest service, take delight to be at hand, make your dames pure and white, who for their civil neatness are proclaimed mirrors of women through all kingdoms famed. Can I be so forgot, and daily hear the noise of water bearers din your care? Those are my alms folks trotting in a ring, and live upon the bounty of my spring. Yet like dull worms that have no sense at all, lick up the dews, ne'er look from whence they fall. The head's not minded whence the goodness flows, so with the world's condition right it goes. Blessings are swallowed with greedy love, but thanks fly slowly to yond place above, from whence the ever-living waters spring, which pure souls eternal comforts bring. The dews of heaven fall on you, prosperous fates, like fruitful rivers flow into your states.
The first thing that leapt to me, and I don't know if anyone else in the room felt it, saw the future echo of the way the water nymph sort of awakes and goes, "Oh, looks around," and I'm going, this is a similar gag that he does in a year and a half or year's time in 1621 Lord Mayor's Show. It's the new standard going, "Oh, what's going on here? Who's been not? Oh, I'm newly set up again after some neglect. Isn't this?"
And William Woolworths as well in 1616 being roused from his doom. Absolutely. I mean, this could so easily just be transported straight into the kind of mayoral inauguration. Yeah, I mean, Middleton's clearly not done with writing stuff like this for cocaine. But again, I think it's nice writing. It's really, he's put a lot into it. You know, it's not, in some ways, I think it's actually probably better than some of the verses that we've seen in the Lord Mayor's shows.
I really like the bit of, therefore am I neglected, an old friend. I just, this having been neglected, and a really important thing as well. This is water of life, etc. So yeah, I mean, that's it. There is no more that we know of for this particular entertainment. I mean, that's not to say there weren't other things going on. I suspect that there's a ceremony, there's music. I'd be amazed if there wasn't music. Do we know if there was any music? Because do we have any accounts of people getting paid? That's usually the way to know.
I mean, that of course, I've been looking through this, and I really need to find out where this stuff is recorded. I think it's probably going to be in the city corporation records, actually, rather than the livery company ones, because it's more kind of general than just the company, as the Skinners in this case for the cocaine. So I'd need to look. The other ones, the ones that are inside the houses, are a bit more explicit about the music, which is helpful.
Okay, we'll go on then. That was the third entertainment listed. Are we going to the fourth, where it's later in September, probably? Upon discontinuance, and to excite them to practice, a speech intended for the general training being appointed for the Tuesday next ensuing the visitation of the springs, but upon some occasion the day deferred. So, Pallas on horseback, on her helmet the figure of a cock, her proper crest, thus should have greeted the Lord General, the Lord Mayor, Sir William Cockayne, at his entrance into the field, the worthy colonels, the right generous Master Alderman Hammersley, President of the Noble Council of War, and the Marshal Garden, the captains, etc.
Why, here's my wish, the joy I live upon, wisdom and valour when both meet in one. Now 'tis a field of honour, fame's true sphere. Methinks I could eternally dwell here. Why, here's perfection. 'Tis a place for me. Pallas delights in such community. This bird of courage, elevator fair, whose figure on my helmet now I wear, and have done ever from my birth in heaven, is consecrate to me as to thee given. Our crests alike, and fix both war and peace, the virtues are valour and watchfulness, and both shine clear now in thy present state, field general and city magistrate. As I from arts and arms derive my name, so thou suppliest two offices with fame. Why, here the ancient Roman honour dwells, a praetor, general, senators, colonels, captains, grave citizens, so richly inspired they can assist in council if required, and set court causes in as fair a form as they do men here without rage or storm. Lieutenants, insiders, servants of bands, of worthy citizens the army stands, each in his place deserving fair respect. I can complain of nothing but neglect. That such a noble city's armed defence should be so seldom seen. I could dispense with great occasions, but alas, whole years to put off exercise gives cause of fears. And getting wealth or care should not be set, but some in the defending what you get. There's few but have their providence so pure, blessed with a fair estate to make it sure, by strength of writings, and in good men's hands, putting their coin secured by lives and lands. This is the common fort to which all fly, every man labours for security. But what's all this? I speak in truth's behalf. If neither men, city, nor deeds be safe, where's now security of state? That day when life stands doubtful of a house of clay, a ruin which neglect of glorious arms has brought on many a kingdom rocked with charms of lazy dullness by unpractised men fit for no service. I resolve you then, this is security, if you'll rightly know, and does secure that word which you call so. Let not a small pecuniary expense, which is but drossy dotage, keep you hence. You lose all that you save after that manner. What is to rise in riches, fall in honour? Nay, to your safety is to commit self-treason, which everything provides for, blessed with reason. Let this grave lord's example in its prime, who perfects all his actions with his time, makes even with the years to his fair fame, gives his accounts up with a glorious name in field and court. Move all men to discharge their manly offices and pains at large. Let every year, at least, once in his round, see you like sons of honour tread this ground, and heaven that both gives and secures just wealth, the city blessed with safety, you with health.
And so we have, so that's slightly confused a bit at the beginning about precisely when this is happening or didn't happen or was supposed to happen. Otherwise, we've got Pallas with a cock rather than it's an owl, I believe it's supposed to be. But hey, it's just going to keep running with cocks here.
I think what happened was that Middleton and his kind of guys, the city chronologists, so having official role, would have presented this to the city corporation to have a look at, and they would have said, King won't like it. Let's not do it, because it is quite critical of James's policy, in the same way, of course, as he is in the Lord Mayor Show 1623. So yeah, it's just there's some stuff in here about I can complain of nothing but neglect. It's such a city such a noble city's armed defence should be so seldom seen, that we're not secure anymore. Neglect of glorious arms, Rochford charms with lazy dullness. I mean, blimey, the city needs to make sure that it is armed, that it is ready for action. It's ostensibly the revival of the military exercises, probably up on the artillery ground near Millfields, but I think it's got a kind of a wider dimension than that. But it's interesting it gets published, though. It's printed.
Yeah, because you've got a muster of lots of troops of some description standing around, and you're going to be delivering this. It's an interesting pitch. So any more for Pallas? Okay, let's move then to the end of this particular male royalty. We're going to a very, very specific day. It's the 28th of October, 1620. It's the last days of Cocaine's term in office. We're going from the Skinners to the Haberdashers in a couple of days' time. And at the house of Sir William Cockayne, upon Simon and Jude's day following, being the last great feast of the magistrate's year and the expiration of his praetorship, one attired like a mourner enters after a dish like a hearse, stuck with sable bannerets, drums and trumpets, expressing a mournful service.
Imagine now each apprehensive guest, the year departed, this his funeral feast. I, a chief mourner, this sad pageant here, set with the orphan's sigh, the widow's tear. All seem to mourn as flocked from their reliefs, till the new sun of justice dry their griefs. And as there is no glorious thing the ends of disapproves the progress of his acts, so in this epitaph, sad truth contracts a spacious story which, spread forth at large, might instruct all built up for power and charge.
The last will and testament of 1620, finishing for the city. Imprimis, I, Annus 1620, do bequeath to my successor 21 all my good wishes, pains, labours, and reformations, to be nobly perfected by his endeavours and diligence. Item, I make justice my executor, and wisdom my overseer, which is that honourable court which never failed yet to see justice performed. Item, I give and bequeath to all the officers for legacies truth, temperance, example of humility and gentleness. Lastly, I bequeath to the whole body of the beloved commonalty 3 inestimable jewels, love, meekness, and loyalty, which are always the forerunners of a blessed prosperity, which heaven grant they may everlastingly enjoy. And now an epitaph, which is silly.
Here ends a year that never misspent day, through fame's celestial signs made his own way. By discreet judgment all his time still led, which is the only sign governs the head, mercy to wants and bounty to desert, the special sign that rules the noble heart, a year of goodness and a year of right, in which the honest cause sued with delight, a year wherein nothing that's good was dull, began at moon's increase and ends at full. Full cup, full welcome, adding the sun's gift, who nearer his declining, more swift in his illustrious course, more bright, more clear. Such is the glorious setting of this year. His beamy substance shines in through his shroud, as the fair sun shoots splendour through his cloud. May every year succeeding this still have no worse an epitaph to deck his grave. And so my last farewell, this tear for me, wishing that many may conclude like thee.
And so ends the mayoralty of Sir William Cockayne. A couple of days later, we have the Triumphs of Peace, which will bring in a new Lord Mayor. I really like the last will and testament. I don't know if that I don't know how this performance functions. There's who does all the speech. Is it all the same speaker, or there are different speakers for each of these elements? I really love the last Will and Testament.
I like the made dish like a hearse.
Mm.
Stuck with sable bannerets. I could just imagine this. They're bringing in this kind of banqueting dish with this black kind of covered thing with little black flags sticking out of it.
And then they get to eat the corpse of an old year.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, it's a really unusual thing. I don't know if this kind of thing would normally have happened, to be honest. I think it's because of cocaine, and clearly Middleton had a kind of closure there.
Ooh, have we lost Tracey? We may have done, which is a shame, but hopefully we'll come back in a moment. I mean, I really would like to think that this happens every year, that they have some sort of knees up and something gets performed, but sadly this is all we have. If indeed they did or didn't, I'll go to Eric while hopefully Tracey returns.
I find it interesting how.
I mean, obviously.
Tracey has returned. That was a blast from the previous release. I'll go to Eric, and then I'll go back to Tracey.
I just find it interesting how all my good wishes, pains, labors, and reformations to be nobly perfected by his endeavors and diligence. It sounds a lot like sort of something that, a president might say today, like passing on to the next person. And then the next person just obviously sort of ruins everything.
Yeah, I mean, there is a thing about this is about the transition of power. And yeah, there's something interesting there. Sorry, Tracey, you got the internet decided it didn't want to hear your words.
Yeah, sorry about that. Just the idea of a sad pageant is oxymoronic, really. Pageantry, as we've experienced it, is primarily celebratory. It's not like, oh, this is terribly sad. Things are never going to be the same again. The best we can hope for is that, it's going to be like his grave. It's pretty downbeat. And the mock testament thing, the mock will and testament thing is obviously a kind of established conventional genre, but I've never seen it in this context ever before.
Yeah. Okay. Let's move on to our next entertainment. So we've got a new Lord Mayor now. This is Sir Francis Jones, the House of the Right Honourable Sir Francis Jones. The property to which this speech especially hath respect was a device made like a dish, more food, expressing two naked arms breaking through a cloud, supporting a wreath of laurel, being part of the haberdasher's arms. The first entertainment at this great feast prepared to give welcome to his own noble fraternity, the company of haberdashers. The speech presented by a servant to Comus, the great sir of feasts.
Free love, full welcome, bounty fair and clear, as it flows from heaven, inhabit here. And with your liberal virtues bless the year. Make this thy palace, thou smooth youth of feasts, Comus, and put joy into all the guests, that they may truly taste in fewest words the abundant welcome beyond King Lord affords, especially to you, above the rest, of all most worthy to be the first and best. You challenge two respects. In brotherhood, one which had desert enough came it alone, without a second virtue, but to add unto your worthiness, your love was clad with honour, cost, and care, and how applied. The late triumph day best testified. Stand in no need of my applause and praise. Your worth can of itself best raised. So much for noble action in your right, which I presume his goodness will requite. Now for himself, not far to wade or swim, I borrow of your honours to fit him, which both preserve me in my first bond still, and may agree best his love and will.
And here the property is presented.
Behold, in this rare symbol of renown, the emblem of all justice and the crown, the furry wood fought ever fresh and green, which imitates those joys ere eye hath not seen. These arms that for their nakedness resemble, earn truth itself no covering to dissemble, nor shift from bribe, but open, plain, and bare, shows men of power should keep their conscience fair. And there their acts transparent, without veil, disguised or visaged, and such never fail. Observe this more, 'tis not one arm alone that bears this laurel, but two joined in one. Mercy and justice, the two props of state, they must be both fixed in the magistrate. If wanting either, subject to much harm, for he that has but one has but one arm. Judge then the imperfection, mark again they break both through a cloud, which instructs men how they should place their reverence and their love, seeing their all lawful power comes from above. And as the laurel, which is now your due, bring due to honour, therefore most to you, fears no injurious weather the year brings, but spite of storms look ever green and springs. Apollo's tree, which lightning never blasts, so, honoured lord, should burning malice cast her pitchy fires at your triumph state, you are Apollo's tree, a magistrate, which no foul gust of envy can offend, nor may it ever to your lordship's end. Health and noble courage blessed your days, to this your worthy brotherhood fame and praise.
Okay, and the award for the most elaborate explication of the livery company arms goes to... I mean, it's sort of... I respect it must be paid to make something of arms of a livery company, and to to have something literally brought on, soon after the Lord Mayor's show. So this is perhaps a sort of more company meeting, sit down, pat on the back, your Lord Mayor type situation.
Yeah, I mean, it just so happens I've actually just recently finished working through the haberdashers' records, and they refer to feasts all the time, but I didn't see anything that gave this kind of said there was a special event for Jones. They had a speech, they had music, any of that, nothing. So this is the only evidence we have of it. He doesn't say much about Jones himself.
So
maybe he guessed.
So yeah. I mean, yeah. So, the precise timing, sometime following his swearing in, as it were. Doesn't seem likely it's on the day itself, because it seems to suggest it was a little in the past, but recent. But yeah, Eric.
I like how out of the entire design of like the coat of arms that he could have chosen various animals or whatever, he just picks it. And kind of I can see that sort of. I can't imagine what they used back then for the two naked arms breaking through a cloud kind of thing. But yeah, I can see them sort of finding, like, if you did it nowadays on MasterChef, it would be perfectly fine.
Yeah, it's a it's a challenge thing for the grand final, isn't it? Surely.
I mean, just think about how much time we spend wondering how you get devices together, and now we're spending hell and wondering how you make these dishes.
It sounds like a lovely dish, frankly. I know how I'd do it. It's with your basic subtlety. You bake the arms, you get an actual laurel wreath them to hold up, and you fix them in, say, a huge fluffy mound of flavoured cream, underneath which is probably your game pie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you almost imagine that actually the cook just goes to, hey, Middleton, right, we've got this really cool thing I'm making. It's going to be great. Can you just write some words to go with the pastry? It's like, which came first, the pastry or the poetry?
Well, I was thinking the other way around. I was thinking the cook's standing in the kitchen as a haberdasher's school, kind of muttering under his breath, bloody Middleton, these stupid ideas. Yeah.
Couldn't you have gone with was it a griffin on their arm, something like that instead?
Yeah,
I know how to do griffins.
Oh no, you do griffins every year, mate. No, this is new. We're mixing it up.
It's got his arms on it. See, it's the pub. Use arms.
I thought he got away. I thought he turned it beautifully. Naked arms coming through a cloud of ignorance, naked, so they didn't show or veil any disguise. And yeah,
I mean, he's worked really hard on it. I mean, I think he's done a job. Is Eric and then Surly.
I was just gonna say, I like to imagine that this is probably like the first budget meeting or something, just like sort of. So, what is it you plan to do with the money? Yeah.
Make a really big pie. Yes, good plan. Go right ahead. But yeah, it occurs to me that this is a thinly veiled metaphor or an admonition to Francis Jones, or something that he's commissioned as a declaration of intent. Yes, I'm going to be above board and honest. You can see nothing up my sleeves. Everything will be fair and transparent from here on.
Yeah, but also, what do you do with a name like Francis Jones? I mean, there's no good puns there at all. I mean, you know, his predecessor, we could do cock gags for ages.
All you've got with him is that he's going to be frank and straightforward.
Yeah. Oh God, the good old days when you had Webb. You know, you could do so much with Webb as well. You know, that's the thing. You can only be Lord Mayor if you've got a novelty name.
Lemon.
Yeah, that's it. Novelty names, otherwise you're not getting in. Anyway, we should.
Balcom, we did the shit, didn't they, Balcom?
Yeah.
Sorry, Greg. Oops. Yeah.
Anyway, we should move on before we dig into this too much. So the 7th entertainment, it's Christmas. Levity, a person attired suitable to her condition. Thank you. That's a helpful descriptor for anyone wanting to do the costume. But anyway, a levity, suitably attired, from a window, unexpectedly thus greets the assembly in the midst of the feast. Surprise appearance of levity at the house of the Right Honourable Sir Francis Jones, Lord Mayor, for the celebration of the joyful feast of Christmas last. And who's levity? Eric is levity. And
forgot that. Oops. I was so drunk last Christmas. Why, well said. Thus Christmas should be, lightsome, jocund, blithe, and free. Now it looks like Bounty's palace, where every cup has its full ballast. Drown cares with juice that grapes have bled, and make time's cheek look fresh and red. Let nothing now but healths go round, and no sooner off, but crowned with sparkling liquors bounding up, quick in palate as in cup. To be heavy, to be dull is a fault so pitiful. We bar it from the courts of reason. Care must not peep abroad this season, nor sad look dare appear within 10 mile of Christmas cheer. Sighs are banished 10 leagues farther, either cellar, hall, or larder. To be jovial then and blithe is truly to pay Christmas tithe. And where free mirth is and impartial, Christmas there has made me marshal.
Severity, from an opposite window, as unexpectedly reproves her.
Why, how now? Known you where you are? Rude thing, bold and unmannered license. Dare you bring your free speech hither before me begin? Who let this skittish thing of lightness in? Some call the porter hither, yet stay. I've power in words to chase this toy away. I wonder that the music suffers thee to come into their room.
Why nicety?
Believe me, honest me, whate'er you be, she's able to spoil all your harmony, corrupt your airs with lightness.
Oh, fie, how ill you blaze my coat, Severity.
Is this a place for you? Can lightness here under the hazard of her shame appear?
Why, thou dull, lumpish thing, void of all fashion, mirth's poison, enemy to recreation, thou melancholy wretch, so filled with spite thou eat'st thy heart, when others take delight. I must be merry, 'tis my nature.
Fool!
Oh, dull dog-bolt.
Skit!
Enter below Temperance.
What, this is a scolding school? How now so high got, and so loud withal? Whose doing was the place due to there to brawl? Pray mark the assembly, look upon them well, think where you are, and let that rude thought quell. You unbeseeming difference, 'tis not here. As a pit, here reverence, worth, and fear.
She says this place and season suits not me.
She saith, she say but right in that.
Oh, levity!
No, nor you neither.
You may be gone too.
You are both extremes, therefore no place for you. Lightness comes not, nor severity. It must be between both, and I am she. Too light is bad, and too severe is vile. But both well-tempered makes the mixture mild. As I stand now between you, so it makes a perfect virtue up, when it partakes of each, and comes no nearer than I do. And virtue made, we have no need of you. Vanish, be gone.
I give place willingly to you, not to her.
They give place.
I get nor I to thee.
So thus things should have their becoming grace, for temperance fits the reverence of this place. Grave senators, in goodness still increased, long may you live to celebrate this feast, this blessed season of true joy compiled, in which fair heaven and man were reconciled. Music, thou most servant to this place, raise chaste delight to doeth this season grace.
And there's a song answered at several places.
Echo, echo, by thy loved ones to Narcissus, I now conjure thee not to miss us, but to make thy sound upon the woods rebound and mountains.
Echo number 1. You're just down as Echo, so just surely be all the echoes, and Echo number 2 be Eric.
No problems.
Is it Eric?
And mountains.
Now to thy neighbouring sisters call.
Sisters call.
Logged in cave or hollow wall, and those resounding near fair fountains.
Near fair fountain.
Let 'em call to one another.
To one another.
One another.
And one sister raise up t'other.
Up t'other.
Let it go from me to you.
From me to you.
Me to you.
From you to them be just and true.
Just and true.
Never cease your voice's flight, till you raise up chaste delight.
Up chaste delight.
Who calls me from my cave?
What's I?
'Twas I, 'twas I.
This is no time in silence now to lie.
Who, I?
Oh, I. This is a season of all I compiled, in which fair heaven and man were reconciled.
Heaven and man were reconciled.
Reconciled.
Behold, how many a worthy guest are met to celebrate this feast.
I see it plain, oh blame me then, I ne'er will share I ne'er will show such sloth again. For whose delight am I now raised?
Oh, for the cities!
How for the cities?
For the cities.
To fail a mistress so renowned, it were a thousand pities.
Thousand pities.
Those are our honoured sons you now behold.
Heaven bless them all with graces manifold. To the music.
So, 'tis thankfully accepted. You have expressed your service well and full to this feast, adorned and honoured in each happy part, with those most reverend patrons to desert.
And now we have the close.
Joy never failed your meetings, good success, all your endeavours and your fortunes bless. Gladness of heart dwell ever in your breasts, and peace of fair works bring you glorious rests.
And close Christmas panto season. We've had this kind of thing more in university settings and Inns of Court, but this kind of slightly silly entertainment is quite delightful and really fun. That we've got people popping in from unexpected places, so from windows above, entering the room below, and then songs and echo and up chase delight.
I think it's absolutely brilliant, and I'm sure you are, wondering whether they just staged the whole thing or whether the Jones's house happened to have a load of internal windows, which seems a bit unlikely. I know there was one where she take this call, but that was different. So it would have been quite something. The sounds coming from all over the place, So yeah, I really like it, and it obviously reminded me as well of the kind of interludes that we know that they would have had at livery company halls going right back to the Middle Ages.
Yeah, I mean it's this thing, and little entertainment in the middle of the assembly, in the middle of their feast, and there's so many interludes actually do involve interruptions of an event, to people wandering in mid-flow, pretending to be servants, or just randomly speaking.
It's an anti-mask, isn't it? It's an anti-mask, really, isn't it?
Yeah. So yeah, that's fitting in with all sorts of other stuff, and was really fun. And I think almost feels like you could just actually do that anywhere. Actually, it's as part of some random event. I feel this is very doable. We need to figure out the music, but I think because it's not that many people and it's silly. Yeah, I'm really liking that. I do like to look for things where I can go, okay, we can actually do something with this, whereas a speech for someone at an archery range is a bit too specific. Eric.
Well, we could perform this next to like sort of the things like the Father Christmas's mask or whatever it was called, Old Christmas, where he's just grumpy about kids not learning their lines and stuff. And also Narcissus, which we did last year. I think it was possibly an interlude performed at a college or something.
Yeah, that was again a university thing. Yeah, we have. It's taken a while to start collecting suitably Christmassy things, and we haven't found that many properly Christmas shows. But these little divertissements do fit them very nicely. Okay, we have a few more entertainments to go. So, the 8th entertainment is the invention thereof at the house of the Right Honourable Sir Francis Jones, Lord Mayor, for the solemn feast of Easter. We've gone from Christmas to Easter, birth to death, and resurrection. Upon the times of that blessed and laudable custom of celebrating the memory of pious works in this city at St. Mary Spittal. The 4 seasons of the year, spring, summer, autumn and winter, in a song into 4 parts divided, call up Flora, the goddess of the spring, who in a bower decked with artificial flowers appears upon the musical invocation. And once again we have this mention of windows, the song at several windows. So it seems like this is a windowy house. is Sir Francis Jones is utilising here. But anyway, spring and summer kick us off. Winter and autumn will follow on in a bit.
Flora, Flora, we call thee here.
Surely, I think you're summer and you're also Flora later on.
We call thee here from forth thy fragrant bower.
Thou queen of every laughing flower, appear, appear to us.
To us appear, thou banquet of the year.
Or if a name may be more sweet, more dear, hark, summer, hark.
Mark, autumn, mark, how coughing winter mourns to see this smiling hour.
Would it were nipped for me, but soft I feel no such decay, but I may live to kiss fair May, and in the morn and evening hours leave my cold sweats upon the flowers.
Alas, poor mumps, at thy weak power we laugh. The sun will rise and take thy cold kiss off. And now behold.
Oh, oh, oh.
He's trod cold at Flora's first appearing. Look and a sound will drop to the ground. Help, 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 he wants your cheering.
Oh, I confess, feel them caress. The beauty of thy power amazes. I am content to join with those three friends of thine and chant thy praises.
Now all
Now
the
all
seasons
of the
year
year
agree to give fair
fair
Flora
Flora the
prime
prime
place
place
to thee.
And Flora, rising in her bower, calls forth two of her servants.
Where's Hyacinth, the boy Apollo loud and turned into a flower?
Here, queen of sweetness.
Adonis, thou that for thy beauteous chastity wert turned into the chastest of all flowers, the close enfolded rose blown into blushes, it is so maiden modest.
What's thy pleasure, fair empress of sweet odours?
Willing servants, I have employment for you both, and speedy.
We wait with much joy to receive the charge on it.
Haste to the two assisting magistrates, those worthy city consuls. Bear our sweet wishes to them, and speak joy from us to both their feasts, and to that part of their grave-worthy guests, which here we miss today, though here be those whom we ought more especially to honour, say though we cannot there ourselves appear, because we owe our greater service here, yet that they shall not fail of all thy due, we send the wishes of our hearts by you.
We shall be faithfully tendered.
'Tis presumed, but to this fair assembly present now I, and these yielding sweets, that all their heads bow in honour of this feast of the day, chief, made solemn by the works of your relief, your cares, your charities, the holy use of pious exercise, all which infuse blessings into your fortunes. You abound in temporal things, cause blessed fruits are found upon the stocks you graft on. Mark the increase. You plant poor orphans in a ground of peace, and carefully provide, when fruit time comes, you gather heaven joys forth in infinite summer. This day you viewed the garden of those deeds that bless the founders, and all those succeeds in zeal and imitation. You saw there virtue's true paradise, dressed with your care, your most religious care, and those blue sets, they are the city's bank of violets that smells most sweet to heaven. Never cease then, you worthy precedents for times and men, till charity spring, by your examples given, as thick on earth as rewards stand in heaven. If there were sloth or faintness towards good works, as blessed be heaven there is not, time instructs the season of the year, for as the ground the heaviest and dullest creatures can be found, yet now begins both in her meads and bowers to offer up her sacrifice in flowers. How much more ought that earth with the soul blessed, which is every of you here possessed, to spring forth works of piety and love, to gratify those dews fall from above. And as the humblest flower that ever grew has not his scent alone, but virtue too, good for man's griefs, So 'tis not man's full fame to have a Christian savour or a name, an empty voice of charity and relief. He must apply ease to his brother's grief. Faith is the scent and odour of the flower, but works the virtue that makes good the power. 'Tis like the tincture of those robes you wear, in which clear vesture you to me appear like borders of fair roses, and worn high upon the city's forehead. That which dyes, it is reverend, honourable, grave, so it is precious, wholesome, which doth crave a double virtue at the wearer's hands, justice and mercy, by which goodness stands. Thus honour still claims virtue for his due, and may both ever lay just claim to you. What? The 4 seasons of the year struck dumb? I looked for a kind welcome, now I'm come.
Second song by the 4 Seasons, called The Song of Flowers.
Welcome, O welcome, Queen of sweetness, welcome, in the noblest manner, with all thy flowers, thy sweet breath, maids of honour.
Flower Guntle, I begin with thee.
Oh, fair flower of crystal, that's for me.
Apples of love, their sweetness dwells.
Give me Canterbury bells.
Fur-doubled gold cups, grief expels.
Agnes Castus, all excelling.
Venus's bath, the loveliest pride of June.
Give me that flower called Go to Bed at Noon.
Blessed thistle, famed for good.
Shepherd's pouch for staunching blood.
Yellow night's-wort for a foul relapse.
And lady's mantle good for maiden's paps.
Tough hyacinth, that crowns the bower, called of some the virgin's flower.
Take that for me, more good I feel in ruffling robin and lark's heel.
There is a sweet unnamed yet, the root is white, the mark of pure delight, bearing this flower fair and high, the colours like a purple dye.
What is the name 'tis blessed withal?
Live long, it's so the shepherds call.
Live long, 'tis virtue's promised due, and may it long remain with you, honoured patrons, virtuous matrons, whose lives and acts this city graces, daily striving and reviving works worthy your renown and places.
So you are confirmed, from your harmonious closes, may sweetness drop as honeydew from roses.
Then turning to the Lord Mayor and Aldermen.
A blessed health possess you and the long, that in this latter spring of your grave years you may be green in virtues and grow strong in works of grace, which souls to heaven endears. Your good cares here, justice and well spent hours, crown you hereafter with eternal flowers.
And Hyacinth and Adonis, sent forth by Flora to the 2 other feasts, thus sets off their employments.
The goddess Flora, empress of the spring, choosing this feast her flowery sojourning, under the roof of the chief magistrate, whose power lays just claim to the greatest state, hath sent me forth, not meanest in her grace, to breathe forth her sweet wishes to this place. First to the master of this bounteous feast to speak her joy, next to each worthy guest, and though she cannot now herself appear, hang on, I'm not supposed to be doing this, am I? It's Hyacinth and Adonis.
We don't know who's doing it. Just carry on.
Oh, well. And though she cannot now herself appear, because she owes her greater service there, yet her heart's love to every one I bring, to whom she has sent a present of the spring.
And then falls into the former speech of Flora, making use of her divine instructions. So we've got some slightly weird questions, because of course we've got these other feasts going on at the same time. I mean, is this an Alan Ayckbourn show? I mean, it's sort of weird that they're being sent off to pop in and maybe repeat the show somewhere else, or just pop in and say hi. I mean, I don't quite know how that functions.
Sort of an early modern civil cast.
Mm.
Yeah, there's a strong boys' company vibe I'm getting from this.
Mm.
You know, some of the stuff is kind of lewd, shall we say? Which kind of begs all sorts of questions about, who was performing it. Where are the boys from? So 1621. Pretty late in the day for boys' companies. Who knows? I mean, maybe it's kids from the Merchant Taylors' School or something. Who knows? Again, it's this is the only evidence we have of these kind of performances taking place at all. So we have to do what we can to extract information from them, I guess.
Are they unusual things over a year period just because Thomas Middleton, or is this a continuation of a thing that had always happened and that we don't have records of?
That is the question, really. And I think, the fact that it's Easter, starts off quite sort of solemn and religious, and it turns to this kind of like nudge, nudge, wink, wink, here's a flower about suppressing sexual desire. What? Yeah.
And there are sequels we're about to read in a moment. Yeah. So, this is a running theme with running characters. Previously on. Eric.
No, yeah, I was just going to say that Winter is such a dirty bastard. But anyway, that's just, his half of his lines / song things are about desire, which is quite interesting considering that usually Winter is sort of the grumpy old man most of the time.
Well, there are ways and means to keep yourself warm at night. Winter is coming, apparently. Moving rapidly on. Any other thoughts? So, yeah, again, song at several windows. That question, who are the performers? Who are the performers for all of this? There's an awful lot of performing work going on here. We're on to Entertainment 8 in the course of about a year. Almost exactly the year on since the first one we read. There's this interesting question of occasional work popping up. How much employment are people gaining out of these companies?
It might be, as I think we've been suggesting, that it's Middleton is, there was somebody doing the sort of city chronology role beforehand, but we're not quite sure who it was and whether they were paid or not. But this one, in this case, he definitely was it, and he was paid. So he might have been sort of saying, I've got the job now, so I can do all sorts of amazing things that we've never done before. So there may be an element of that.
Okay, well, let's go on to the sequel. That was around about the 5th of April. We're going a little beyond. So here follows the worthy and noble entertainments of the Lords, His Majesty's most honourable Privy Council at the houses of the Lord Mayor and Sheriffs. The first entertainment upon Thursday in Easter week being the 5th of April 1621, which was possibly the one we've just done. And upon the 16th of the same month, those persons of honour received their second noble welcome in a free and generous entertainment at the house of the Right Worshipful Master Sheriff Allen. Flora, the person used before, thus prepared for them.
Am I so happy to be blessed again with these, the choice of many thousand for royal trusts elected, and a care that makes you sacred? May the world compare men a confidence with yours, from so complete and excellent a master? Or so great and free a love can any nation show in subject to the sovereign, than doth flow from this most thankful city? Waves of love e'en overwhelm each other as they move, all striving to be first, they run in one to the ocean's breast, the king's affection. And you of honour, that do often appear in presence of a majesty so clear, so mighty in heaven's blessings, be so kind to grace with words what he shall ever find, and 'tis a glorious truth that well beseems places and persons of your fair esteems. Not all the kingdoms of the earth contain a city freer to her sovereign, more faithful and more careful. Observe here his highness' excellent trial. Love and fear make up a subject's duty to his king, as justice and sweet mercy makes up him. So twofold virtue, twofold duty cheers. He knew their loves, now come and touched their fears, to try their temper. Oh, blessed heaven! He found it was the fear he looked for, had its ground upon religion, reverence, sweet respect. Love not, look not lovelier, nor divinelier decked. Each reprehensive word he did impart flew and cleaved fast to their obedient heart. 'Twas fire within their bosom, could not rest, till in some serious manner they'd expressed their duteous care, with all speed put in act their sovereign sacred pleasure, to coact where manners failed, and force, as with a pill from humour's rude, the venom of the ill. A king's own admonition against crimes is physic to the body of the times. And herein did he imitate the highest, to whom it best becomes him to be nighest, to chasten where he loves. It is the seal of the Almighty's favour. He doth deal so with his chosen, doth not languish then. Thou prince of cities, cause the king of men, divinely did reprove thee. No, 'tis love. Thou art his chosen city, and wilt prove, as thou hast ever been, faithful and free, the chamber of his sweet security. Then in a health of joy your hearts express, while I breathe welcome to these noble guests.
And the song of a welcome, after which Flora thus closes the entertainment.
A trust of honour and a noble care, still to discharge that trust, keep your fames fair. You have proceeded carefully, go on, and a full praise crown your progression.
Off to eat and drink. This is very much more, hi, there are guests, welcome, aren't you great? You know the king, don't you? Well, that's cool. Here's a song. It'd be nice to know what the song was, or have something about the song, but warm up act for the song, and presumably let's eat. I don't know if it's post-eating or middle of eating, but it feels like a pre-eating thing to me, but I don't know. But yeah.
It's starting to help me understand quite is that Francis Jones struggled. To be honest with you, this is a lot. And he was expected to fund most of it. So yeah. I'm not surprised he ran away.
Do you think it's because he married into there was that was the previous one, wasn't it?
That was Cocaine's son,
yeah.
Well, we know that the members of the Privy Council did, come and go in the city, and they would have had to always make a massively good impression, and so on. And as you say, the speech is very much, the Privy Council are amazing, and the King's amazing, and we're so lucky to have you. All that's it's rather dull, actually, but hey, yeah.
It sounds...
there, isn't it? The king's own admonition against crimes is physics the body of the times. That's in inverted commas. So I'm just wondering where that is. That like from some other source, maybe.
I don't have the book in front of me, which I might have a footnote, but someone else might. Other thoughts. Sully, and then Eric.
I'm finding it's interesting there's such a focus on admonition and the king's reproof, and how awesome everyone is for taking it so well and remembering that the king punishes them because he loves them. It's really rather creepy to a modern ear, obviously, but I'm wondering how usual that would have been, whether there was any particular occasion that might have sparked that off.
I know not.
Good. It's a good question. I mean, there was a lot of friction between the city and the crown at this point because, generally speaking, the city didn't really agree with James's policies about Europe. So maybe this was some sort of attempt at rapprochement. I don't really know.
This was held at the house of Sheriff Allen, I believe it's said. So would he have been funding and directing it, or would that still have been Jones?
It would have probably been a mixture of the two. I don't know which livery company Alan was from, but it's possible that his livery company may have put a bit of money into it. But it was generally speaking, these three roles, an Alderman and the two sheriffs, were what they called officers of charge. So you were expected to stump up, which is why people tried to do everything they could to avoid doing it, frankly. In the case of Francis Jones, Starper just before it was all over.
And presumably, who pays the piper gets to tell Middleton what the overall policy and sentiment should be.
Yeah. I think in principle, although Middleton's not really one necessarily to do exactly what he's told.
No, I mean, I was just wondering, maybe this is there's a reason why there isn't an ongoing series of these from Middleton. Is just maybe he just bankrupted the Lord Mayor. He just went, yeah, it's fine. We'll just send the bill. The invoices are come in late, and it's quite expensive hiring Hyacinth. I don't know. Sorry, Eric.
I was just going to say, how did we go from this kind of writing to Game of Chess? Which is kind of very different style. Although you do have funny scenes like the Fat Bishop and all those characters, but then just why couldn't he write like this for the theatre?
It says he did. I mean, the actual style of writing is not wholly dissimilar. I mean, there's an awful lot of ticks that we've got. But yeah, I mean, they're very different occasions. And different energies, and Middleton did comedy as well. Different kinds of comedies and dark things. He did all sorts of things. He was
the echo scene in the one before last. I was just thinking Duchess of Malfi right through while that was,
Well,
going on.
We have done so many echo scenes. There were so many echo scenes. We haven't even got to Malfi yet. And we must have done a dozen at least. There's so many of them. I think the closest one to that is probably from the Entertainment Narcissus, which is a university thing, which is the funniest, I think, of the echo scenes, because it is genuinely quite rude in ways. But yeah, there's a few other that are quite good. Anyway, we have one more entertainment. There's another sequel. Flora. We're not done with Flora yet. Flora returns, as indeed does Hyacinth. It's an ongoing adventures situation. The last entertainment, full as noble and worthy as the former, upon the Saturday ensuing, being the 21st of the same month, at the house of the equally generous and bounteous, the right worshipful Master Sheriff, Ducey? Don't know how to pronounce it.
Ducey.
Yeah. Flora, this the third time in her bower, beginning to speak, interrupted by her two servants, Hyacinth and Adonis.
Good heaven!
Interrupted by Hyacinth.
Right, not there. Fie, this is usurpation merely. Speak thrice together. There's no right in this.
What's that?
I have the juster cause to take exceptions. This is the place I lately served in, and by her own appointment, my wrong's the greatest.
Here's a strange sudden boldness of both sides of me.
Was not sufficient grace for you to speak at the Chief Magistrate's house? There, where that bower was first erected, but to shift your seat from place to place, pull down and then set up. I wonder how she escapes informers, trust me.
Believe me, so do I. She has favour shown her.
So this becomes you well?
Right in all things, you might have kept our places as we held them. There's little conscience in your dealing does. You might have let them lower books for us, for our poor service.
Thus I answer you, taking my precedent from the just care of those clear lights of honour, shining fair to their work's end. You see before your eyes the trust was committed to their wise and discreet powers by his highness use. They put not off to others with excuse of weariness or pains, as they begun in their own noble persons see all done. So, by their sweet example, I that am your queen and mistress, and may rightly blame and tax the boldness of your ruder blood, I do not think or hold myself too good in mine own person, to commend their cares that have so justly served their king in theirs. Now, you pull in your heads.
Pardon, sweet queen.
Yet why should anger in my brow be seen? They came but to show duty to the time. Contention to do service was their crime. That's no ill-looking fault, but 'tis still known they that give honour love to do it alone. It brooks no partnership. To give this last duty her due, as others before passed, though it came now from men of meaner rank, where wealth was ne'er known to overflow the bank like spring tides of the rich that swell more high. Yet take for truth it comes as cheerfully, all smiling givers, and well may it come with smooth and loving faces, the small sum that they return is 1,000 times repaid in peace and safety, besides sovereign aid for each heart's grievance to its full content, by this high synod of the Parliament, before whose fair, clear, and unbribed eyes, when it appears, corruption sinks and dies. Secure oppression once comes trembling thither, stead of her hard heart knocks her knees together. This benefit is purchased, this reward to which all coin is dross to be compared. But the fair works concluded, on all parts your care, which I place first of all deserts, and it becomes, it has been nobly just. You have discharged with honour your high trust. The city's love I must remember next, and faithful duty both devoutly mixed. And, as the state of court sets last the best, his boundless goodness not to be expressed, that is your king and master, blessings fall upon his actions. Honour on you all.
And thus closes this text, as it were, that we've got here. So yeah, I like the way that Hyacinth sort of just talking like the stage manager who had to schlep the bower out of each location. Just go, oh God, no. Something I quite liked about that. So yeah, third time lucky from Flora. Thoughts in the room? They have a cantankerous relationship, Flora, Hyacinth, and Adonis. So, you know, they're...
I think you have to be there.
It's not the most.
I think it would have either been deeply tiresome or hilariously funny to have seen the whole thing play out across however many days.
Mm. Yes,
sounds to me like.
Yeah, carry on.
It sounds to me like this is possibly referencing some recent political thing. I mean, we have here basically Adonis going, me, I want to do it. As well, Adonis and Hyacinth. And Flora going, yes, dear, yes. It's all very commendable, but I need to do this myself. I'm the boss, and the boss has to do this thing, take responsibility for everything. Winking at the audience.
Some critic or other, I don't know who it was, some idiot once argued that the corruption sinks and dies references is to Francis Bacon, who fell from grace almost exactly the same time as this, and corruption was one of the things he was accused of. So it's possible. That was me, but it's possible.
Mm. Yeah. So. Yeah, you're right. I think there's something about the cumulative effect, because if you weren't there for the first performances, this little sequence is a bit weird. It's sort of going, did I miss something? Oh God, yeah. Whereas everybody else is saying skip recap button.
It's a nice in-group builder.
And so yeah, in a sense, what we've got here is effectively a year's worth of entertainment. You know, we've got a year in the civic calendar to a degree as well. We've got, you know, the Lord Mayor shows, which we've covered. We've covered the 1619, the 1620, and in a lot of detail coming up, the 1621. Greg is there waiting in the wings to be the next Lord Mayor, Edward Barkham, and he's coming through shortly. And in fact, actually, there is one more Thomas Middleton text that I know of a similar thing, though it wasn't printed here. We're not going to do it today, but there is another weird civic entertainment specifically for Edward Barkham. So I'm going to try and find a way of getting Greg to do it for Greg before his term of office ends at the time of recording this a few months' time. But I haven't got it transcribed yet, so I couldn't do it as part of this sequence. It wasn't printed as part of the Honourable Entertainments. It's a
I was going to say, pass it to me to transcribe. That's fine, or whatever. I'll have a fiddle.
Yeah, no, I'll get it done, but we'll do a little separate thing on that. In fact, we might try and do it before we do whatever we do for Lord Mayor's show this year. So overview of all of these. Let's say we've got a year effectively in civic activity. I mean, there are other civic events that are going on. I don't know very much about the other kind of things that Lord Mayors will be up to, apart from Lord Mayor shows. But this is part of that sort of ongoing calendar of Tracey.
Yeah, which is why this is actually a really important little book, actually, because it's got material that we don't find anywhere else in any way, even as a kind of archival documentary source. There's nothing. Obviously it raised all sorts of questions about how common this was and so on, which is frustrating in some respects, but the kind of variety and ubiquity and the different venues and possibly the kind of use of the same actors or different actors and all that kind of thing, it's a whole kind of body of performance traditions here wrapped up in this 24-page booklet, and really, really interesting.
Any other thoughts in the room?
It's reminded me quite a bit of when I used to work on the Colchester Festival and the associated events. We weren't doing quite the same sort of civic pageantry, but it had a very similar flavour. We did ceremonies in front of the town hall and some things in the park, the occasional fundraising event elsewhere, and at one point a series of mystery plays. And I think the point I'm getting at is that whilst we were doing all this on a shoestring, we had this network of people who we knew could do particular parts, and sometimes would have had to have been physically prevented from joining in, like the Town Watch. We had amazing Town Watch, pipes and drums and everything. At one point, I had to use them to escort a wedding party out of the way so the mayor could give a speech.
That's really, we need to talk about this, actually. It's really interesting.
Anytime.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah. Any other thoughts from the rest of the room before I close the session? So yes, I say there's a teensy-weensy little bit more of Middleton in this vein to come, but for now, that's it for the smaller scale civic entertainments going on. All that remains is to thank all the wonderful readers for all the wonderful reading. Thank you very much, everyone, and goodbye, fair empress of sweet odours.